First, we take our pattern paper and leave 1.5 inch in the front and 1/2 inch at the top. Then we'll take 3.5 inches width and 1.5 inches depth, like this, and we mark it all around and draw our line to link up these marked areas, like this. Then we use our curve ruler and link up the two lines like this, or we go out by 1/2 inch, mark it, and then link it up to the two areas if you don't have a curve ruler. The next, our shoulder is 15, and so we can make use of that 7.5. So we'll mark 7.5 all the way down. Then our shoulder to bust point is 10.5, and we'll mark 10.5. And next, our shoulder to waist, 16 inches. So we mark 16 inches and then roll it. And our shoulder to our lower waist is 19.5. But the full length is 22, so we'll leave it at that. So the 19.5, we'll mark it and roll. So here it says thickened and labeled so that you can see it clearly. So remember our shoulder, which was 7.5, that we already marked all the way down. I don't want the armhole to be too wide, so I'll go up by 1.5 inch. So it'll almost be as though it's our upper bust. So we roll and link up, but before we link up the shoulder, I would go down by 1 inch and draw the slant from that neckline to the shoulder point. Then we'll roll it down. So you can complete the line at the side, which is optional, like this. Then we'll go out by 1 inch at this rim and measure the midpoint of the shoulder line and mark it. Then we'll go in by 1/2 inch. Then we join all these 3 points together using our curve ruler, like this. And then join it to the shoulder line, like this. So we take our measurements. Our bust is 10.5. So we'll just link it up with the shoulder at the top. And then our nipple to nipple measurement is 7 inches. So we'll do 3.5 and then mark it on the bust line on the waist, as well as the low waist. Then link those lines together. So before we link the lines together, or after, you measure 1/2 inch by the side of the marked line on the waist, and then 0.25, that's a 1/4 on the low waist. So let's link up that line. The bust point to the 1/2 inch of the waist, like this. We'll draw the line, the straight line, all the way down. and then we'll link up, we'll draw that line all the way to the bottom part, and then link up 1/2 inch to the 0.25 all the way to the down part, like this, and do the same on the other side. Would go out by 0.75 inches, although later on you'd see that I changed that, so you can start out now and go in by 1 inch. This is for the front part, so go in by 1 inch. I'll correct it later on in the video, you'd see it, and then link up that line all the way to the shoulder. It's not a permanent line, so I'll use biro, and so out where that line meets with the curve, that's where we'll mark, and then link up that point where there was a join, and then rule to the bust point and measure the midpoint, which is 3 inches, and go out by 0.25 inches, or you can just use your curve ruler, but that's how far it comes out, and blend the line, giving it that curve, so because the bust is not straight. So that's a permanent line, so I'll use our marker and link it. So that's the part where we're going to be cutting out. So to get rid of that sharp edge, I'll just come out a little bit and give it a blend like this, and do the same on the other side as well. Give it a blend like that and get rid of the pointy part. Then we'll fix in our measurement. So for our waist, there's 3 inches there, and the total for our waist is 8.5. So 3 inches and then stop at 8.5. We'll mark it there. So if this format I just used is strange, I'll just show you how I did it, leaving that dot in the middle. 3 inches, took it forward and measured 8.5 and stopped there like this. Can you see? So I'll link it up to the other lines that have already been drawn, and our low waist is 8.75. That's 8 3/4, and so we'll measure it, leave the dot point, and then stop at 8.75 or 8 3/4 and mark it. So we'll link up all those lines together. You can use your free hand or you can use a ruler like this. And so we measure the midpoint of this line of the low waist and then go down by 3 inches. So it's exactly 3 inches. Then we rule from that midpoint of that corner and link it up to the bottom part. Then you see the reason why I left 1.5 inch at the edges. So I'll just draw a straight line there, just to indicate that that part is meant to be left. So let me adjust the camera so you to see clearly from that point, like this. Then we'll join from our neckline down to the front part. So this is going to be the flap of our jacket. And we'll link it up together that way. Then we'll also join that line at the bottom part to the extended bottom line we marked earlier. We'll also link the back part to that same line. And then this is the part that's going to be cut out. So we'll mark it. You remember what I told you in the beginning, that it's go out by 1 inch and not 0.75. So here it is, the 1 inch I spoke about, and a new shape was formed, so that means the previous one was cancelled out. So you saw where it marked, it linked up to the line there. Then we used our curve ruler like what we did before and brought it out that way. like this. So here is me making a tick so that you can see it clearly. So that is counted. We're going to use that 0.75 at the back. So here is the cut out version of it, of the front part. So now this is the back part. So what we left is 1/2 inch at the top, and then these are our markings: bust, high waist, and low waist. So our neck width of 3.5 inches like we earlier did, and then neck depth of 1.5 inches. So we mark it like we did to the front, and then link up all those marked points like this, either with our ruler or with our free hand. Then we'll go out like we did before by 1/2 inch and link up the two lines together, either with our curved ruler like I said earlier, or with our free hand. Then we'll measure our shoulder, which was 7.5. And link up those points all the way to the bottom part. So your shoulder can either be 7.5 or 7.025. That's 7.1/4. And like we did in the front, we'll go up by 1.5 inch and link up all those lines together like this. Then we'll go out by 1 inch. And we can still do the same thing we did to the front by going out by 1/2 inch. Although the normal back, this is how the normal back is. There is no going in. They just link up those two lines like this and like that. I've linked it up. This is how the back usually is. But in this case, we're going to add the slant of 1 inch at the top. So in this case, you still see that we'll do what we did in the front. Or I'll just replicate all the things we did to the front part, where we did our neck, our bust span of 3.5 inches, then 1/2 inch on both sides of the high waist, and 0.25, that's a 1/4 on both sides of the low waist, then linked up all the lines together. So I'm a bit faster in this part because we've done this before, so we're just replicating what we did in the front part. So go in, like I told you, 0.75 or 3/4, and then we draw a line all the way down. So the reason for drawing this line is to have the meet up between that line and the curve. Now you see the reason why we need to come out by 1/2 inch on the midpoint of our shoulder line. So we'll get the midpoint of our shoulder line and then come out by 1/2 inch and draw it. You can see exactly where it meets. It meets at that point we just came out like this. Exactly like this, and we're good. See the meet up there, that point, and from that point, like we did before, we'll link it up to our bust. And because it's straight, we don't want it to be straight, so we'll come out by 0.25 inches. We'll just use our curve ruler and blend it like this to have that curve. So I'll make it thicker with our marker so you can see clearly like this. Then measure all the points like we did in the front part: our shoulder, our bust, our high waist. So like we did in the front part, we do the same thing here and link up those lines all the way to the top like this. So I'll label it our back and our front so that we don't mistake the two of them. Our back will have a fold and this part is going to be cut out. And so this is how it looks. So I'm just taking it with the marker. We'll label our back and as well as our front. So here are the fabrics we're going to make use of. More like khaki fabric, and then the lining is so slippery and beautiful. So cut out the pattern, leaving an allowance of 1/2 inch all around like this for both sides. And remember, the back part is on fold, so we join them together and make sure we mark our back part with the chalk. I always do that so if the two parts look alike, so I don't make the mistake. So I pinned all those points together like this and went to our sewing machine to sew. So I sewed all the points together by 1/2 inch, like the allowance we left, removing our pin every step of the way as I sewed carefully. So I used these markings on the sewing machine to ensure that I stay on 1/2 inch, like you see here. See the 1/2 inch mark there, and ensure that I stayed on it all the way through, like this. So what I did here is use our scissors to cut it in a slant, not all the way through, but to make it free like this, just to notch it all the way around. So I did that for all the other parts that has been joined together like this, so that it will have a flat look when I iron it like this. Then I went up by 3 inches, draw the line from that 3 inches like this. So the side, on one side we have 3.25, that's 3 1/4 on this side, and then this other side 2 inches, and then we have 5 1/4. So this has 6 inches, and then I would leave out exactly, so I would leave the midpoint of that 5 1/4. So the length, sit 1/2 inch down like this, and marked it like this. So I corrected it, so 1/2 inch like this, can you see? And then we have our 5 inches. So I resulted to 5 inches, like you see. I corrected it there instead of 5.25. So at top as well 5 inches, and did the same thing on the fabric. So I left 1/2 inch on all sides. So same thing here, 1/2 inch box, 5 inches, you see, and then used this pocket, so you can make it as long as you want, but should have this fold of 1 inch and the midpoint of that 1 inch marked. So I sewed that point exactly at the bottom part and stopped at exactly that 5 inches. And then this one, this was the height of 1.5 or 2 inches, and then below it's less than half, like you can see here. Then we have this, we have that midpoint there. Then we use our scissors, cut it open, and ensure we have that V shape at the end like this on both ends, and make sure it's the midpoint of this 1/2 inch that you cut out. And I turned it over, and this is how it looks. So you have to be particularly careful about this, because you want 1/2 inch to be out for that fold. So you adjust it, and then when you turn it underneath, you'd see those marks. So ensure you sew directly on it, and that V shape would be on this. You can see the top part and the bottom part. Ensure you sew like this. So this is the one that's already been sewn. So see that the side, I sewed it like this on both sides. And now I don't just want a mark there, I want it to have a little pocket, even if to just put toothpick in it or something. And then I sewed at this rim. So I sewed it at that top part from the inside like this. Then you see how it looks outside. Sorry you missed out on the video having to join the pocket. So I just folded it up and sewed it, and ensured I sewed it all the way down like this, so that I can cut the top part, the excess. I don't want the excess at the top. If you want it, you can leave it there, but I just sewed it there after sewing it all around, and then cut the top part like this. and we're good to go. So you can make it as long as you want. Like I said earlier, you can make your pocket as long, but make sure the width is the way you've seen it in the video. And voila, we have our pocket. Now we'll press it down. Now it's for the belt at the back part. So we have 10.5 and then 2 inches. So I folded it, sewed it, and folded it. So this is for the back. So I joined the back together. But before I sewed it, I marked 5 inches at the top from the bottom to the midpoint. Then placed my belt above the marked point and pinned it down. Did the same thing to the other side and pinned it down before sewing. So I sewed it on all rims, and as I did the front, I notched it all around. So these are front and our back. So join the shoulders first. So here's the shoulders already joined, back and front part. The shoulders are joined together. Then we placed our lining on it and sewed. So first I just sewed the front part, the parts that we have our flap, sewed it all around to where the V begins, like this. So I'll just show you. The video was mistakenly deleted, but I'll show you. This way I sewed and stopped at this V, sewed at the point and stopped at this V after pinning everything down. Then I went to the underarm and sewed all around. They weren't joined together yet, just sewed all around. After sewing all around, I now joined both the back and the front. You'd see the linings. So lining by lining, lining to lining and fabric to fabric. You can see there's a space there. So you see the small space I left at the bottom part. Look at it, this peephole. This is the part I'm going to use needle and thread to join together. But I'll just show you how I joined it together. So you can see the lining parts joined together like this, and then the fabric part joined together. This is for the sides, like this. And then sewed it all around. So when I was done sewing the sides and linking up the underarm of the two parts, front and back, I now sewed the bottom part. So I sewed the bottom part by turning it over, sewing it the wrong side up, then sewed it to the midpoint and left a small space there, like 2 inches wide or 3 inches wide, like this. So here it is, the jacket. So here's the gap I told you about. I would use a needle and thread. So if there's any adjustments you want to make, you turn it over through this small peephole and make the adjustment inside. But we'll use a needle and thread and just finish up that. So here is how to put our adjuster at the back. So placing our adjuster at the back, first we'll put our belt from the underneath, and then pass it in the middle because there are 2 rims there. Pass it underneath and back to the other side. So like I told you, we have a space there to be able to make an adjustment inside. So I didn't like how to sew it outside would look. It wouldn't look neat and professional. So I opened it up and sewed. So here it is on the fold. It's 4.5. So I turned it over. I'll show you how I did. You see how neat it is. I put it inside. So I just turned it over, loosened that small space, put the belt in, and then sewed it. I'll turn it and you'd see inside like this. Sewed it and it looks neat as new. Then use the other side of the belt. You remember the other rim that has been left? So pass it from underneath like this, but this time directly on the second rim and then under to the other side. So here is how we're going to be adjusting it So if you want it tighter, you drag it on. So it's just based on how tight you'd want it. So the clothes is more or less fitted already, so this is the limit I want. So if you just want it to be normal, you adjust it back and it's normal. So here it's the look. I love the outcome. I love the button I used as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and then give me a shout out in the comment section what you'd want to watch next. Bye.